Hello, my name is Wendy Rodrigue, and my late husband is artist George Rodrigue. You may know his work. He painted the Cajuns and their legends and stories. He was indeed Cajun from New Iberia, Louisiana. But he was best known for his paintings of the blue dog, which has in many ways become the most recognizable symbol in modern American art. I am standing right here in the beautiful Louisiana Art and Science Museum alongside the magnificent, mighty Mississippi River in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, within their exhibition, Our Louisiana. Yeah, spotlighting many fabulous Louisiana artists from their permanent collection. It is a real thrill for me, since George has been gone now just over 10 years as I visit with you here, to see his work spotlighted here in their magnificent exhibition and within their collection, and something important to them, as they've expressed to me. It is an important piece. It resonates for many, many people, and I believe this is why. When Hurricane Katrina occurred in August of 2005, we weren't here. We were in Houston, Texas. George was having an exhibition there. And like many people, we watched this on the television unfolding, horrified with the suffering of this place that we love so much. Interestingly enough, many of our staff members who were with us for this exhibition, they also were watching, and in their case, they saw their neighborhoods on television inundated with water as the levees broke. George and I were very blessed in that our damage came from losing the roof and the rain coming in. We were out of our home 9 months, which honestly was nothing. Most of our staff lost everything they owned. Much of this city and surrounding cities and communities had destruction and devastation that some recovered from eventually and some never did. Huge. So what do you do when you are George Rodrigue and you watch the people and place that you love suffering like this? Well, you remember what you're capable of doing. And that all started with September 11th. Following 9/11, George painted a painting he called God Bless America, and he made prints of it, and with that painting, with those prints, raised very quickly $500,000 for the American Red Cross in New York. Through that, we learned that his art was extremely effective in raising funds because it resonated for people. George used to say, for example, when he painted Louisiana, I don't paint what Louisiana looks like. I paint what Louisiana feels like. So how has he done this with a piece like this? Well, one of the lessons we learned with the print from 9/11 is that we made a big mistake. And that was we limited that print by number. And so we sold $500,000 worth of prints and raised that funds for the American Red Cross because we made 1,000 prints and sold them for $500 each. How many more prints could we have sold? How much more money could we have raised if we didn't do that? So this time, George says, I'm going to make a print and I'm going to limit it by time instead of by number because the money is needed now and quickly. So in other words, I will make a print and say, we're only selling these until December 31st. Buy it now. The money is needed. This is the first one he made. There are actually 6 prints in the series. We called the program Blue Dog Relief. And this is how he made this. George decided he wanted the dog with the red cross on its chest, right, to be submerged as Louisiana was submerged, and yet to rise again out of the water. He began painting in the foyer of his son's house, Andre Rodrigue, because our house was unlivable, and of course you couldn't even come into the city of New Orleans, yes? And why in the foyer? Because when we were able to get into the city very briefly with the help of the sheriff, actually, we cleared out artwork like crazy, and it was all stacked in that house, along with the clothes we could put our hands on and everything else we got out. There was nowhere to move. And so George set up in the foyer, a tiny little vestibule about the size of this corner where I'm standing now. and he began painting. I brought an original painting here with me for you to see what that looks like, because an original painting has real texture, yeah? Strong texture. And George wanted his piece following Hurricane Katrina to have the illusion of texture, specifically the illusion of water, yeah? So the original painting is very big, I believe 6 by 4 feet. It's really big. And in fact, it is in the collection of the New Orleans Museum of Art. However, this particular piece, it was the print that actually raised the money and helped with humanitarian and arts-related causes. To come up with the idea to do the water, George started painting that in the vestibule. You can imagine every time the door opened, right? Excuse me, poor George. And he's trying to paint in all of this chaos going on in the post-Katrina immediacy, yeah? Painting from his own pain, feeling the pain of the place he loves most. He didn't like it. He painted it, but he didn't like it. He said, my water looks like marble. I don't like that. And so he got an idea. That's where it all starts. You all know that. With an idea, yes? He didn't give up just because it looked like marble and not water and he didn't like it. He said, no, I'm going to work this out. And so he went to a friend's house, a friend of his who's an artist, a wonderful artist in Lafayette, Louisiana, named Mr. Tony Bernard. He could be in our Louisiana. He also is a magnificent painter. And George said, Tony, I need to photograph your swimming pool. And he went up to it and he photographed the water of Tony's swimming pool. Then he went to a master printer and he had that water printed onto that large 6 by 4 foot canvas. And then he painted on top of that. And that is how this print was made, of this dog submerged and yet rising again. And indeed, he called it, We Will Rise Again. As I said, there were 6 different prints that George did within this Blue Dog Relief Program. It raised millions of dollars for humanitarian and arts-related relief. But this print was the star of the show, the one that resonated most for people. It was the print that when I went to see some folks that needed some help right outside New Orleans, George sent me. He was busy with helping other people that day. When I got there and I was telling people about it, they said, here, take my $500. They were just writing checks or giving me cash. I said, he hasn't even finished it yet. I don't even know. We want to help, and we know he is going to reflect the feelings of so many of us. This print alone raised $700,000, and George said to the American Red Cross, if you want it, I am not writing that check to the American Red Cross like we did with New York. Instead, we want it to make sure it is for the Red Cross actually right here in New Orleans. And that is indeed what happened. They had lost all of their structures. They lost their building. They lost their offices. They were operating out of tents, the Red Cross. They started a whole new fund and account. As far as I recall, that had never been done before for the Red Cross. Because George said, either it all goes here, or you don't get the money. I'll find another way. George Rodrigue's We Will Rise Again is exactly where it should be. Yeah, here in the heart of Louisiana. When George and we eventually moved to California in the last decade of his life, and when we did, a reporter from the LA Times flew up and said, Mr. Rodrigue, interviewing him for the paper, now that you're in California, are you going to plant the redwoods and the lone cypress? And George said, why would I do that? My Louisiana is in here. Yeah. It's in here. My landscape is in here. And my people are in here, no matter where I go.